cross 500K in lifetime sales, I'm going to say something that's probably going to surprise you. You have done enough. I'm not saying that as a compliment. I am saying that strategically, stop creating new offers now. You don't need another offer. You don't need to squeeze in another launch. You don't need more content, more visibility, or a bigger ad budget. What you need is someone to come in behind everything you've already built and make it all work together. Because right now, the biggest revenue opportunity in your business isn't in front of your funnel. It's in the gaps between your existing offers. The buyers who finish your program with no clear next step. The checkout page with no order bump. The clients who loved working with you and then drifted away, never to hear from you again. You don't have a creations problem, you have a systems problem. And systems, especially the one directly tied to revenue, are not your job, they are mine. Hi, I'm Katie Peacock, founder of the Post-Sale Profit Studio. We're a done-for-you back-end sales agency. We work exclusively on the flows that make more money from your existing clients after they have already paid you once. But we don't just teach coaches how to optimize their backends. We conceive, build, and implement strategic backend systems for you. So if you're intrigued by what you hear today, don't forget, you don't have to learn this. You don't have to add this to your plate. We make it easy to make sure more money lands in your bank account instead of lying on the table. All right, intros out of the way. Let me paint a picture that I think is going to sound familiar. You build an offer, you launch it sells, and revenue spikes. You feel the relief, excitement, and euphoria that come with ping after ping of Stripe notification on your phone. And then the doors close, your cohort is full, you switch into delivery mode, and your payment notifications go quiet. Next quarter, you do it again. Launch, spike, silence. Lather, rinse, repeat. Let's get one thing straight. The problem is not your marketing. It's not your copy, your funnel, or your audience size. This problem is structural, and it's one that more content, more launches, and new offers won't actually fix. Because here's what's really happening. Every time a buyer completes your offer and doesn't have a clear next step, that relationship and the potential revenue that you built up in the goodwill you created within that relationship, it resets back to zero. Not because that client didn't love you and not because they didn't get results, but because nobody made them feel wanted and nobody gave them a good reason to stay. And that reset is costing you so much, both in time and energy, but especially in money. It's so expensive, way more expensive than most coaches realize. Quick question before we go any further. Give me a ballpark percentage. How many of your clients from your last launch have gone on to buy something else from you since then? Drop the number in the comments below, even a rough guess. I'm genuinely curious where people are starting from, and the upcoming videos in this playlist are going to give you some practical ideas for how you can start to nudge that number up. All right, let me show you what this looks like using real numbers from a coach I worked with recently. Kelty is a coach based in Munich. She helps women navigate the decision about whether or not they want to have kids. It's amazing work. She has a very specific niche and she gets her clients great results. When we sat down to look at her business, she had done 60K in sales in the year before. Getting people results, satisfied customers, and she has genuine expertise that is clear in her content and in her offer delivery. But even though she had worked with her marketing person on a few follow-up emails in an attempt to connect her offer, she had no real structured back-end system. Her offers weren't strategically connected, and she wasn't actively guiding buyers from one offer to the next. So, in the course of a back-end opportunity audit, we identified three main gaps. Number one, checkout optimization. Her low-ticket offer was a one-off workshop, but she also had a bundle of pre-recorded workshops on related topics. So someone could buy that first session for $45, but there was no way that they could buy the bundle of pre-recorded workshops unless they went to her site and really dug around to try to find them. I showed Kelty how optimizing her checkout page to give people the option to add on that bump order or add on an upsell could have a massive impact on their overall lifetime value. Not to mention, adding those bumps and upsells shows her who's really keen and potentially a very warm lead for her high ticket offers going forward. This is such an easy fix that can have a massive impact on your bottom line. The second structural gap we identified was follow-up offers. When we looked at Kelty's offer suite and existing systems, I noticed there was no automated sequence after her workshop pitching her group program to buyers who'd already shown they were interested. Again, this is both super common and one of the main ways coaches are missing out on easy money from their existing clients. And I want to make clear here, this is not pushy, okay? Having this automated system in place to send sales emails to people who have shown you they are interested is not pushy. It is proactively supporting people. If you know that your offer is their best next step, holding back from sharing that information is not in integrity, or it's not like better ethics. It is just leaving them in the dark as to how they could actually get the support they need. Structural gap number 3 was that Kelty had no way to personalize her continuity offer. So she had her workshop bringing people in. That's where we identified that need to optimize her checkout pages. She has her group program, and that's where we identified the need to automate a sequence pitching the group program to people who did the workshop. And as her continuity offer, we identified her one-on-one coaching as the best people to continue working with her going forward. But her one-on-one coaching can be about anything her people want. And because Kelty was not asking any questions about what people wanted to focus on after participating in her group program, she had no way to personalize her pitch. It was just generic one-on-one coaching. I recommended that Kelty add a question to her existing testimonial collection form, asking people which area of their life they were interested in, like what area of their life was their growth edge moving forward. This gives Kelty the opportunity to tailor her pitch to that person based on the area they are most interested in having ongoing support. This is how you meet people where they are at scale. So I recommended Kelty make these 3 structural changes. That's all she had to do. No new offers, no extra launches, no increased ad spend. Using the impact calculator I built for her as part of her backend opportunity audit, I showed Kelty how these 3 structural shifts would help her generate 44 in additional revenue. And I want to remind you, as I said up top, Kelty had generated 60. That meant she could increase revenue by 70%. Taking her up to $105,000 in revenue simply by making these structural shifts. I know you might be thinking the same thing that Kelty said when I showed her this. She said, "It seems too good to be true, that just by making a few small tweaks, I can make so much more money. How is this even possible?" And I completely get why it feels that way. We are trained to believe that more revenue requires more work. And we are so skeptical of the idea that we can make more money from our existing audience and our current numbers, but the math is the math. Even using conservative conversion rates on the upsells I recommended, those follow-up flows and, people converting from Kelty's group program into her one-on-one coaching, I showed Kelty how she could earn 70% more revenue simply by making targeted offers to her existing customers. Again, we didn't assume she was going to have more customers. We didn't assume she was magically going to, become a more consistent social media user, or that her podcast was going to explode overnight. We kept everything else the same. But with these 3 structural changes, she would be able to go from $5,000 in revenue. Now let's scale that up. Take, for example, a coach doing $500K a year with a 900 course, a 5K group program as their signature offer, and a 10K mastermind, but missing checkout optimization, mid-program upsell, and a retention strategy to keep people in her mastermind after year 1. I have taken into account that if a coach is at this $500K per year mark, I'm assuming they have some backend strategy in place. That might look like they're already converting 15% of their course participants into their group program, and they're already converting 10% of their group program participants into their mastermind. So that's why these numbers are blank, because 15 of these people are coming from here and 4 of these people are coming from here. So I just want to make sure you see that this revenue is not being accounted for twice. This coach is currently generating under 100K from her course, over 200K from her group program, and exactly 200K from her mastermind. Let's look at the impact of adding in those missing components and increasing conversion from the group program by just 20%. We end up with an additional $116,000 in revenue. That's not a rounding error. That is a significant amount. So let's look at where that's coming from. If we look at the before page again, everything in yellow represents existing back-end sales. So that's revenue that's being generated behind the scenes of her offers, right? If we look, you can see everything that is in orange is what is new in the after. So what we have added in terms of checkout optimization is, in this case, for example, a VIP tier added to checkout as an upsell. We also added a mid-program upsell. Maybe that's like an implementation sprint or a one-off one-on-one call, but that's a way of supporting those people who need extra help and giving yourself a nice little revenue bump mid-program. And then, of course, we also increased the conversion rate from 15 to 18. Again, we're being very conservative with what we're using as this example, but that meant 3 new sales of her group program. So that is reflected here in terms of total sales of the group program. Now, I also added this mid-program. So I'm assuming that this coach already had VIP tier. But what we added here was a mid-program upsell to her group program, where she's giving people who are already in the mastermind the chance to upgrade to the mastermind there. So that's an additional, even with a conservative 10% conversion rate, an additional 4 mastermind sales. And that is resulting total in 3 new sales of the mastermind. So you'll see that is reflected here. So this is actually 5 new sales compared to the 4 she was making here. In the after, we have a total of 9 mastermind sales. So that takes this number from 16 up to 21. Our upsell within the mastermind we added, that could be something like a VIP day, an in-person retreat. You know, I've given you the example of costing 20% of the price point, but obviously that's flexible. And then improving retention in the mastermind, we increased sales. We added 2 new sales. That gives us a total of $617,300 checkout for her course. We added a mid-program upsell to the group program, and we improved retention of the mastermind and added a mid-program upsell to the mastermind. So with these changes in place, this coach has created $116,000 in additional revenue from the same size audience, right? We did not change the inputs. So this is still with 100 course sales. The additional sales here are generated from those improved conversion rates. So this is the same size audience, the same offers without raising prices. 100 is not a rounding error. That's a new team member, that's a raise for yourself, or that's the down payment on an investment property that will allow you to exit your business and retire early. All right, but let's talk about the 7 problem. This is something I've noticed in almost every conversation I've had with established coaches. They rate backend optimization as a 7 out of 10 on the priority scale. And maybe you're familiar with the phrase 7s kill businesses. They only want to focus on things that are a 9 or a 10 in priority. But they know this matters. They know they should do it, but it just doesn't seem like a priority right now. It's something that I think they'll get to when things slow down, when the next launch is done, when they have a spare week. I know you might be thinking exactly that right now. Ugh, I know all this stuff. I'll figure this out as soon as I have a chance. But let's talk about what waiting actually costs you. 1, it costs you in long-term ROAS because you're paying to acquire new customers and then just letting them drift away after that initial purpose. It costs you in revenue from that next step. It costs you in revenue from that next step sale because you're not actively giving people a clear reason to stay in your world. And it costs you in terms of the time, money, and energy you have to put into acquiring new leads every launch just to keep your head above water. In contrast, when you fix this, you only have to do it once, and then it pays you. It literally creates new sales for you without you having to do your hair and then film a reel, without you having to ask ChatGPT, what should I email my list about this week, without you needing to squeeze in a flash sale, let alone another launch. Backend systems only need to be set up once well, and then they just start paying you money. The key is to make sure you're not missing any steps when you do that initial build. That's where I can help. In my next video, I'm going to show you 3 specific moments inside your existing offer suite where most coaches are currently letting money slip through their fingers and what's causing each one. Spoiler alert, they're not what you think. Watch video 2, linked below, next in this playlist. And if you want to get ahead of it, check out Ascension Unlocked. This is my diagnostic mini course where I help you assess your existing offer suite, how it's currently performing when it comes to ascending buyers from one purchase to the next. I'll walk you through my diagnostic framework. You score your own offer suite across 9 specific points. Your offers, the flow between them, and your ascension pathways. You'll come out of that with red, yellow, and green scores, and then use that to know exactly what to fix first for consistent high-ticket sales without needing to actively sell. It lets you stop guessing, stop thinking you need to overhaul everything, stop spending so many hours creating yet another new offer from scratch. You will have a clear, prioritized action plan for your specific business. The link is in the description if you want to check that out. For now, go watch video 2, the 3 moments revenue actually slips away.